Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on the Flash Season 5, Arrow, Supergirl, because it's some crossover talk. So we are now officially under 2 weeks until DC TV, or the Arrowverse, is back on our screens with the Flash and Black Lightning, followed by Arrow and Supergirl the following week, and then finally Legends of Tomorrow the week after that. But after the show's return and we are back into the swing of things with our favourite shows, for most of us our minds are going to start thinking fairly regularly about the crossover for this season. Especially because they will start filming the crossover, roughly around the time that the shows return. So we will be seeing posts on like social media and various things, whether that be set photos or just photos from the cast as they are on breaks and stuff like that, because they're hanging out with people they normally wouldn't work with on a week-to-week basis. But some things were posted on Instagram by someone sort of connected to the DC TV shows in regards to production or behind the scenes that were very interesting. And I thought I would make a video on it just to get your thoughts on it, as we usually do. Like, this channel is basically about, getting thoughts, bouncing off one another. So yeah, I thought I'd do that. And obviously just giving my opinions on it as well. But just quickly, they did confirm the crossover event title, and they're just called Elseworlds. Now, I'm not going to jump into any of that in this video. I've done a video separately, specifically on that, and I will leave a link in the description down below if you want to go check that out. So Andy Poon is a designer and does a lot of concept work for various properties, like the illustrations behind it. But in regards to this video and topic we are going over, he does do a lot of work for the CW. If you ever see those concept art photos for new suits like the Flash, Black Siren, or a new suit on Arrow, they are most likely from Andy. So you'll see some examples popping up on screen. I'm sure a handful of you have seen them on the internet before. Or if you want to, you can just Google Andy Poon Designs or something like that, and you'll see countless illustrations he has done for various shows in the Arrowverse. But anyway, what Andy uploaded to his Instagram about 3 days ago roughly was actually some Batman stuff. Not only some designs, but also an actual real-life Batman cowl being made up. Like, it's in the design process, and it basically looks done. But I guess the big question around this is whether this is being made up for the crossover that is coming our way in December across the Flash, Arrow, and Supergirl, because as I said, they could start filming that crossover in the next maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks at the latest. Well, let's go over it in more detail. So, of course, we know the crossover will at some point take place in Gotham City. Like, if not the majority of the crossover will, it is hard to tell at this point, but we know, I guess, that a decent chunk of it will take place in Gotham. Obviously, Gotham being where we will most likely run into Batwoman for the first time, but if there is Batwoman, wouldn't that mean there should be a Batman around beforehand, or are they going to make it that Batman was never a thing, and that Batwoman is the lone vigilante in Gotham? Is that how they're going to make it work? Well, honestly, I couldn't see them doing that, as I think they would or should know that that would trigger some people. Even massive fans of Batwoman know that there is lore behind the character. Now, me personally, I wouldn't really care too much, because even if it was a thing, I would not expect Batman to show up on Batwoman or the crossover that much. Like, maybe a little cameo appearance, but the cameo appearance isn't going to make me love the show any more than I normally would. Just be a cool little bonus. But as I said, the crossover is Elseworld, so they could make it that in this Elseworld, maybe Batwoman is that lone vigilante. Who knows what they're going to do? But really, when it comes down to it, if I had to put money on it, like that, someone gave me $10 and was like, "Pagey, mate, you're gonna have to put $10 on a choice. What is your money gonna be on?" I would probably say that Batwoman is gonna be the only one that shows up. But that's not saying I don't think he will show up. It's just if I had to spend my money wisely, that's what I would do. But you would hope at some point in Batwoman's introduction, you would have to think there would be some form of Batman influence, whether that be in the crossover we get in December, or when Batwoman's solo series comes out the following year. It's basically, she's getting her own solo series, if you didn't know, which will most likely come out next year the same time all the new seasons of Flash and Arrow and stuff come out as well. Now, if Batman were to appear, I'm not expecting a warehouse fight scene or anything like that. If he were to show up, I would just expect to see him, most likely in the shadows, rocking up and telling Batwoman or another character some information or something along those lines. And then in, say, the Batwoman series, they could go the route with having maybe Bruce Wayne being the one who shows up, whether that is in a regular sense, showing up regularly, or just for one episode. Now, it is important to say that in the audition process for Batwoman, the lines that people were reading in their auditions, they did name drop Batman. So it's not like it's some weird thing. So if the audition process is anything to go off, you could say that Batman is confirmed in this universe, but that's just the audition. It's not a confirmed script for the show, because as I said, that solo show is over a year away. But if it's for the crossover, then maybe you could take it as some evidence. But with that whole like Batman in the Shadows thing, that is what looks like we will be getting on the Titans show that will be starting to air on the DC Universe streaming service in about 2 weeks time. Like I think it comes out the same week that the Flash comes back. As they had their like Batman suit sort of like leak onto the internet. I'm not too sure who leaked it, but it leaked. And as you can see on their one, the cowl looks like half decent, looks like a decent Batman cowl, but the rest of the suit is like average at best, so let's be honest. But that's because he will most likely be like showing up in the dark where extra detailing would be pointless as you wouldn't see it. You just need that general Batman like outline look so you know it is Batman that is there. Like even the cowl might be done a bit better because they might do like a close up on his face or something. So you need more, better detailing on the cowl. But the rest of the suit, if it's in the darkness, it'd be a bit of a waste of money and time to like, put specifics on there like a bat symbol and all that. But seeing that the crossover is in Gotham, we have the villain being an employee and originating from Arkham Asylum, where of course you would think many Batman villains would be locked up. This of course just opens the door for a quick cameo appearance from the Caped Crusader in the crossover. I mean, we're getting Superman in the crossover, Batman is going to be in Titans, so surely it wouldn't be too much to ask for, just for a Batman in the Shadows scene or something like that. Come on the CW, throw me a frickin' bone here, or Warner Brothers, one of the two. But as I said, the villain for the crossover is from Arkham Asylum, that being Dr. Destiny, so he's an actual, doctor that's at Arkham Asylum. So that can lead into a topic to end this video off, which is about villains and side characters that could be teased in this crossover and that could later show up in Batwoman's solo show. Or just villains in general that could show up in the Batwoman show. They don't have to be teased in the crossover, I guess. So we will just quickly go over 2 possible options for the main villain for Season 1 of Batwoman that could be hinted in the crossover. The first of these is the most likely one to be teased in the crossover, as they are central to sort of Kate Kane or Batwoman's story, and that is her father, Jacob Kane. From what we have heard leading into the production of the Batwoman show, Kate has some pretty big issues with her father, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if that is all set up for him to be the major antagonizing force in Season 1. In the Rebirth comics, so the most recent iteration of the Batwoman comics, he is the leader of a group called the Colony, which is a government organization with soldiers essentially trained to fight and work like Batman. Now, they could change it up a bit, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they went with something like this. In other iterations, Jacob actually helps his daughter with her Batwoman activities, but I'd prefer if he wasn't in that role in the show and that was given to another character from the comics, or even an original character made for the show. The other option for the villain for Season 1 of Batwoman is that of Red Alice. Now, this would be another family connection, but not one that could be teased or even hinted at in the crossover like in the case with Jacob Kane. Like, this would be like a villain that would sort of like play out throughout the season. You don't really want to tease it. So with Red Alice, she is actually Kate's twin sister, Elizabeth, but for the show, I would just make it that she is Kate's like long lost sister. Let's not get into some like lookalike Savitar crap, no one wants that again. So early on in Kate's life, Elizabeth and her mother are presumed dead after a terrorist kidnapping gone wrong. But years later, once Kate is settled and out and about as Batwoman, she crosses paths with her sister Elizabeth, who has since become one of the criminal leaders within Gotham City. Elizabeth, now mentally broken after the trauma of her youth, has molded herself after Alice from Alice in Wonderland, hence the name Red Alice, and ends up being a pretty solid enemy for Batwoman. Not only would Elizabeth be one of the more like aesthetically different and compelling like big bads that we have seen in the Arrowverse to date, but the longer format of storytelling on television would allow Alice and Kate's conflict to be taken into some, pretty interesting territories. So just quickly on some other side characters to show up in the Batwoman series alongside, of course, Batwoman. I think the obvious one and the one most would agree on saying, and let me know in the comments if you agree with this, is that of Lucius Fox. Yeah, I know he's on Gotham right now, but that is a much younger version of the character. So they could go for that older Lucius, especially if Batman has been around for a while. So that would be an interesting take for him on the TV because he has like already experienced that stuff with Batman. So let's move it on to Batwoman. Sort of similar to Morgan Freeman in the Nolan Batman movies, that would be like your ideal looking Lucius Fox. Lucius could serve as that like connective tissue to Batman as well, even as like Kate might find it hard to connect with him herself. Another side character that could eventually show up, maybe outside of her superhero persona at first, before leading into, this more, the superhero persona in later seasons, or just later in Season 1, is that of Betty Kane, who later on becomes Flamebird. And I think even she becomes Batgirl, or is that earlier in the comics? It's one of the two. Now in the comics, she is the cousin of Kate Kane, so it wouldn't be, too hard to introduce her into the show, just as like a teen cousin of Kate, maybe in, she has to take care of her or something for an episode. Maybe she is struggling, being kicked out of home or something like that, comes to Kate for help, maybe eventually moves in, and just gets caught up in the whole Batwoman stuff. And just as time moves on, she moves into that Flamebird role. Yeah, I know that is some like typical cliche comic storyline, but what do you expect? It's simple, it works. Now, Betty in the comics has an obsession with Dick Grayson, aka Robin, aka Nightwing, so they could do something with that if they are allowed to mention those characters on the show. They could be like, oh, that boy Wonder was a big fan of him. They could do something like that. And the last character that would be interesting to show up, and this is connected to a villain, that being Red Alice, as I talked about before, and that, other character that could show up could be Mad Hatter. And that mainly comes down to the fact that Red Alice molded herself off Alice from Alice in Wonderland, so why not have Mad Hatter be a part of her plan, or at least be like an accomplice to some activities? That would be like great to see at some point, just because you have the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland, and then you have Red Alice, inspired from Alice Alice in Wonderland. So with Batwoman coming and Gotham on Fox ending, around the middle of next year, this will allow the show to have Batman villains and their various takes on them show up at certain points. But you shouldn't expect like your Jokers, your Harley Quinns, your Deadshots, or anything like that appearing. But I think characters like Clayface, Scarecrow, might I say, Mr. Freeze, Victor Zsasz, Black Spider, or maybe even someone like Two-Face could show up in episodes or have, decent storylines throughout the series. The Batman characters are a bunch of fun to have your hands on. There's a decent amount to choose from. So if they can get that license and can use those characters, then we should expect some decent television with the Batwoman show. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on what we went over in this video. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.